I'll ring the bell, and this can symbolize the beginning of this little segment that we have together. And if you want to really utilize the bell to its fullest, imagine yourself stepping out of one segment of your day, and that includes everything that's happened up to now, this morning. You could even include last night and the days and the weeks and the months before that, all into a separate segment. And when you hear the bell, you could even visualize yourself stepping into this hour that you have set aside for yourself to practice. I don't know if you've ever been to a place of worship, particularly temples, where those who visit normally remove their shoes, they remove their slippers before entering into the building. I didn't quite realize that the removal of footwear was actually symbolic of stepping out of that past and into this new moment that you are arriving into. And here comes the bell. Visualize yourself stepping out of all those conversations, all of that work, everything you've read, all the games that you've been playing, and into this moment where you begin inhabiting your body, which is sitting on a chair or a cushion or a mat. Very easily begin by just examining all those indicators around your body that tell you that you have arrived into this segment. Get into those little details that you normally miss when you rush about your daily life. Feel the softness or the hardness of the surface underneath you. Remember, the surface doesn't have to be comfortable. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just noticing what you find at this moment. Noticing even the judgments that you have of this particular surface that you're resting on. Judgments such as comfortable, uncomfortable, too soft or too hard, absolutely perfect and comfortable. And very gently give up your muscles. Give up your muscles to gravity. Give up your bones to gravity. Gravity that brings most bodies to a state of ease and rest. Letting gravity take over and assist you in this process of arriving in front of these computers or tablets that you find yourself in front of. Activate those exposed areas of skin around your body which are interacting with the air around you. Awakening the sensitivity levels so that you might even be able to detect very subtle movements in the air that seems to surround you. That air that is invisible to our bodies but exists as oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen molecules, atoms, brushing against the skin. And of course, sometimes these movements are so subtle that the air feels, unless you have a window open or a fan switched on, the air feels quite still to most of us, which is where we invite our attention to one part of the body where there almost certainly is movement. And of course I'm referring to the movement in the air, and that would be the tips of the nostrils. So very gradually feel your attention and awareness leaving the surfaces of your body and moving towards the edge, the tip of your nose, where you can feel your breath unfolding. You can observe the rhythm of your breath today. You're probably aware by now that the rhythm of your breath changes, sometimes from moment to moment, and sometimes as we enter into different segments of our day. There's a rhythm for exercise, there's a rhythm for food, there's a rhythm for relaxation. What's the rhythm right now that you're observing? What do I mean by observing? Your eyes are closed. So what you have is your sense of touch, your ability to detect sensations around your upper lip, sensations within the nasal passage, where you can actually feel the air moving in and out. Notice how your mind is entering into this part of the practice. Because for most of us seasoned practitioners, for most of us who've been here before, who've entered into practices like this before, almost every facilitator invites you to observe the breath at some point. And so watch what happens in the mind. The mind goes, sometimes the mind's voice will go, oh, not again. I've done this before. I know what the breath feels like. But notice that the mind is saying, I already know. I remember. That means the mind is looking into the past. It's past memories of breath. What it felt like yesterday, what it felt like before, perhaps what it felt like earlier this morning when you were practicing. And then we invoke that quality called the beginner's mind, which is very useful in every practice that you sit down to, every practice you ever enter into, whether it's a walk in the park, whether it's a walk into the kitchen, whether you're walking into one of the rooms in your home. The beginner's mind, it's where you enter into the present moment, where you step outside of all of these memories so that everything you perceive is perceived for the first time. You notice colors, you notice textures, you notice shapes, and everything is unique, everything is different. The lighting changes throughout the day. And there is intrigue, there is interest, there is curiosity. As we step outside of our mind. And if you've ever felt bored, that's always an indicator as to the extent to which we exist within our mind. Where even the brand new car or the new toy that you just purchased, the new piece of clothing, it looks fantastic, it looks incredible, so long as we haven't created mental imprints of it, memories of it. But as a few hours go by, memories are beginning to be created, and a few days and a few weeks, the memories become very solid, and they're no longer, and that gap that initially appeared when we didn't recognize that item, when that item was new, that gap of stillness, that gap of silence, it no longer exists, and we become bored even of that new toy that we purchased. And this is a practice where we practice stepping outside of this monotony. Where every relationship is transformed. Where you release all your memories, your past memories of those with whom you find in front of you. And allow it to begin with a blank slate, with the newness, with the freshness of a new friendship, a new relationship, enabling you to focus on those parts that you would like to focus, releasing those parts which no longer exist, into the history. Allow your in-breath to become a new beginning, to represent a new beginning. Try it. Feel how infused with oxygen this in-breath that is flowing in feels like, how delicious it feels as you breathe in. How breath nourishes the body. The newness of the air that's balanced with sufficient amounts of oxygen. Now, breathe in the newness and the lightness of a new start. Not only for those around you, but for yourself. Where all those qualities, all of those habits that you've always wanted to change no longer matter. They simply dissolve as you breathe in the newness. And as you exhale, the release, feeling the warmth, feeling the, we know there's a high concentration of carbon dioxide, which the body no longer needs. But along with that carbon dioxide, why don't we release some of those qualities, those habits we have no use for? Breathing in newness, feeling the lightness that unfolds with every breath that we take in, that we release. Loosen your shoulder muscles as you exhale. And what better way to feel the loosening of shoulder muscles than feeling the weight of the arms pulling down on the shoulders. Letting go of any of the muscles that are unnecessarily being tensed, so that your posture is more one of balance than effort. If every in-breath represents a new beginning, and every out-breath represents a complete letting go, notice how every breath grounds you and anchors you deeper and deeper and deeper onto this very moment where you are seated here, listening to these words, breathing, experiencing, allowing. Entering into that state which we often refer to as being. Just being. Releasing all of the doings. Some of us came here to meditate. That's doing, isn't it? Let's release the need to meditate. Maybe we came here to be mindful. That doesn't feel very natural, does it? Again, it's doing. Let's release that. What else did you come here to do? Did we come here for a result? To get over some depression, anxiety, some worry or concern? Maybe that's doing too. So let's release the need to achieve a result. Any result at all. And just be. Be sitting. Be breathing. Being exactly as you are. This is usually a good time to notice where the mind is. In this practice, we treat the mind as a separate entity. A separate entity. A little bit like the clothes that we're wearing on our body. A little bit like the tools that we use. Like a knife. We use a knife to cut vegetables, as a tool to do different things. In the same way, in this practice, we treat the mind as a tool, one that can be very useful, and one that can sometimes result in us feeling a little bit less than comfortable. But this is a practice where we learn how to use it as a useful tool, where we step outside of it, where we begin to create space between this witnessing presence that we are, this observer, and the mind. We sometimes find ourselves being carried away by thoughts, either into the past or into the future. The secret to this practice is to simply become aware that you've drifted into one of these spaces, the past or the future, and the key is the awareness. The moment you become aware, you return back to this awareness, this sense of awareness, presence, and you begin to observe the mind, its movements. A few moments ago, we released labels such as meditation, mindfulness. Because for many of us, when we think of the label meditation, there's an automatic assumption that my mind has to be quiet. I must be experiencing supreme bliss and silence, just like those statues of the yogis and the Buddhas and all of that. And sometimes, because of what we've read, but the experiences of some of our teachers who attempt to describe experiences of stillness and silence. But in this practice, as we release those labels, we enter into it with a completely open mind, open to all that we find. And one of these things that we find is the mind that is moving. Because of momentum that it's picked up from this morning, last night, the days, the weeks, the years, and sometimes as far back as childhood. Things that it's learned, judgments about us, about the world around us. Sometimes judgments that are quite harsh. If we heard voices from our childhood, from our teachers, from our parents, saying that we had to achieve a certain income, a certain status, a certain number of awards, sometimes just those labels like marriage, partnerships, relationships. If we grew up with those kind of beliefs about our sexuality, about our gender, about the roles that we had to play, and right now the person who we find is different from that expectation, very often there's very little peace. That's the need to strive, that's the need to do, to enter into a doing state so that we can change the way we are and be something completely different from who we find at this moment. And when we feel the need to be somewhere other than where we are right now, we bring ourselves back to our breath, having noticed that we've been taken away from this seat, from this breath that is unfolding right now. The two things that are important, that we are sitting and breathing. Everything else is just a distraction taking us away, a part of the story, a part of the momentum of the mind. And so we breathe. Feel the sensations of your breath. And as you experience the sensations, you will find yourself returning back into your body, which is seated here, breathing at this moment. Feel the direction of the air as you breathe in. How can you tell that the breath is moving in? How deep into the nasal passage can you still experience this movement of air? What's the temperature of the air that you're breathing in? Be curious about the speed at which the air is traveling into your body. Be a little bit more curious about which nasal passage you're utilizing as you breathe in. Is it your right or your left? Notice how different the breath feels as it leaves your nostrils, as it leaves your nose. The different surfaces within the nasal passage that the air brushes against, its warmth, its increased level of humidity. All bringing you back into the present moment. How is this happening? Because in this present moment, all you will find are sensations. And when I say this, I simply mean there's no warmth. Because in order for there to be warmth, There must be something to compare the breath against. And in this moment, there is only the breath that is traveling in or out of the nostrils. There's no relativity, there's nothing to compare so that it becomes warm or cool. But the moment we begin, we can't help it. As we examine these sensations, even the direction of the breath, even your ability to distinguish between an in-breath and an out-breath, it's an indication of the mind leaving its past, leaving its future, and taking interest in the present moment. It's an indicator that the mind has joined us in this present moment. And that is why we begin to get glimpses of stillness, relief from the constant thinking process of the mind. The mind begins to help us. Remember how we talked about the mind being a useful tool? This is how we're utilizing the mind at this moment, as a tool to decipher these sensations of warmth, of humidity, of comparison. And then the mind goes back into the past. It fast forwards into the future. And sometimes you find yourself lost in thought, missing the last 10, 20, 30 breaths. But that's absolutely fine, because there's only one breath that ever matters in this practice, and that is the breath that is unfolding at this moment, this very moment. And it might be an in-breath or an out-breath. And then you notice yourself returning. You notice your mind returning, aligning itself into the present moment. This profound, still silence that is this moment. Profound because it is always the present moment. 1 minute from now, 1 year from now, 10 years from now, always arriving as the present moment. Our age becoming completely irrelevant because we all share the present moment. We all exist in the present moment. The 1-year-old child, the 5-year-old child, the teenager, the person who is 90, only able to exist in this present moment. So our bodies, they fade away, the forms, the age, the papers that denote our age and size and all of that, they fade into the background as we all tap into the present moment. What does it feel like to you? Feel your breath. Keep returning to your breath. It's humidity. And there is something that can help you to anchor yourself more deeply into the present moment, and that is by simply changing the pace of your breath. Up until now, we've been breathing very naturally, very comfortably, very normally, the way we always breathe when we are relaxed. But now, breathing in as deeply as you can. So much so that you reach the capacity of your lungs and your stomach. You pause for a brief moment to feel what it feels like to have so much breath inside of you, and then take in a little bit more. And when you exhale, exhale as slowly and as gently as you can, noticing all of the sensations that accompany such slow exhalation, such a slow and comfortable releasing. Does the humidity become magnified? Does the warmth, do you have a better sense of the warmth of the breath as it flows down the nostrils? Notice, keep breathing in this way, in this new rhythm, breathing in as deeply as you can. Not worrying too much about your chest, but feeling it more in your stomach. Feeling your stomach wall stretch and balloon as you breathe in. And as you exhale, feeling your stomach wall falling, 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 slowly, gently. You're more consciously breathing now, simply because of the change in pace. Your mind has anchored itself into this new way of breathing, because the mind likes new, the mind is curious about new, the mind is curious about different. Just sitting and breathing. Sitting, feeling your body, feeling your posture once again. Feeling the rising and the falling of your stomach wall. Feeling your bodies. Asking your bodies, is there any part of the body that doesn't feel very comfortable right now, that could do with a stretch, that could do with some movement, a soft massage, a sip of water, or a drink? I'll ring the bell just so that you have an opportunity to change your postures, or to just bring a drop of kindness to your body. But you could use this as a very precious part of this practice by bringing a sense of continuity to the practice. And so the awareness that you bring to your breath, the awareness that you have brought to the simple fact that you are seated here, bring the very same awareness to all of the surfaces of your body at this moment, noticing those pockets of discomfort and identifying them. If you like, sitting with them, writing little post-it notes and sticking it that, oh, the knee feels a bit uncomfortable, or this part feels a little bit squished, or pins and needles, or whatever it is you're experiencing. And then when you hear the bell, let your awareness flow. Continue flowing as the body moves, as you change your posture, as you pick up a cup of or a bottle of water in front of you, and feel the weight of the glass, feel the weight of your arms, feel your joints moving, or your adopting of a new posture. Bring that sense of continuity to every movement that unfolds. No particular movement is more important than another. And it's very easy. Sometimes we see, if we feel uncomfortable, or if we imagine ourselves with our arms stretched out, and we see that stretch as the ultimate, the goal, and everything else is ignored. But here, we feel the early parts of the movement, even the stillness before the movement begins, and how the intention translates itself into movement. My reason for guiding you in this way is because we spend most of our days in movement, picking up things, putting things down, reading, using remote controls, our phones, our tablets, preparing our food. So much movement, and every movement becomes an opportunity to step outside of the thought process, bringing a continuity to all these practices, releasing that image we have within our mind that a practice has to be a certain way, it has to be seated, you have to be completely still. But no, this is a practical practice where the key is alignment. Alignment between mind, body, and of course, if you are speaking, the sounds that come out of your lips. Unity in word, thought, and deed. Now, start settling down into whatever posture it is you have chosen. Maybe still investigating what your perfect posture is, but there is no perfect posture, and we have no rules in this practice. And so if you feel like changing in a few minutes, give yourself permission to. Arriving, recognizing a sense of relief. If you had a sip of water, what does your throat feel like? We'll move through a body scan now. And those of you who've practiced with me, you know how I like to associate the body scan with a practice that equates with our health, our well-being. And the key word is just well. What does it feel like to be well in the mind, in the body, and being. That means what does being mean to you? The releasing of effort, the releasing of the need to be somewhere else other than where you are. What we watched our breath. We observed our breath. And our breath, it just seems to unfold. Our breath is a sign of well-being, isn't it? No effort required. It just unfolds in the background constantly. That's a sign of our well-being. Where even if we don't think about our breath, it continues, the body continues to breathe. Same with the heart. We don't have to consciously make it beat, it just beats. Pumping blood, infused with oxygen throughout our body. The changing seasons, no effort required. No effort required, just autumn turning into winter, into spring, into summer, and a cycle that requires no effort on our parts. The rotating of the planet that keeps the planet alive, its plants, its animals, its insects, us. As another indicator of something that just is, being, no effort required. My voice will guide you towards different parts of the body, where in the same way you step back most of the time and just let your breath unfold. In the same way you step back and not worry about daylight appearing the following morning, or for the sun to set in the evening, no effort required. My voice will guide you towards different parts of the body where we will simply step outside of that body part. Not interfere with its workings, with its movements. And you may think, I don't interfere with my body. No, I just let it be. But every worrying thought we have, anxiety, stress, it often has an effect. It always has an effect on our body. Sometimes just muscles, like you might feel in your body right now, certain muscles being quite tense and tight, whether around the forehead, the jaws, the shoulders, always related to something that might be in your mind, and often held, thoughts that are held much deeper within the body, within organs, constantly tight and tense. You probably notice how when you have a cut, white blood cells are automatically released to stop the bleeding, to prevent infection. Body temperatures rise when there is a virus. So the body has intelligence. And usually we interfere with it through our thoughts. And so as my voice guides you to different parts of the body, visualize awareness, this awareness as a white light. Or actually it can be a light of any color, even the same light that's coming in through your windows, but more concentrated, and it has qualities of ease, comfort, healing, repairing, balancing. And when the light shines in a particular part of the body, step outside of that body part and feel this liquid light infusing it, almost as though you were applying it, and allowing the cells in that particular part to balance themselves, repair themselves, finding that state of being we call well-being. Let's start with the forehead, bathed in this light. And it's a liquid light, so it has weight, a very comfortable and soothing weight, which flows downwards into the eyes, throughout the facial muscles. This light spreads throughout the scalp, loosening the skin and the muscle underneath, penetrating through the skull into that area where the brain sits, where the inner parts of the eyes are, where the inner parts of the ears are, where the nasal passage is, the jawbone, the mouth, which includes teeth, gums, tongue, the skin around your face loosening itself. This liquid light flowing down the neck, like a warm and comfortable waterfall, one of those beautiful ones that you've seen in images, flowing down the shoulders, the back muscles, the chest muscles, flowing in between all of these muscles through the organs, down into the mid regions where the stomach is, where the digestive system is, through the arms, the elbows, the palms, the forearms, all the way down to the fingers, flowing down through the pelvic region, into the legs, right leg, left leg, knee joints, calves, shins, soles of the feet, all the way down to the tips of the toes, where your whole body is experienced from within as a body of light that's simply sitting, breathing. Breathing in the air which is infused with this light. Feeling your muscles, your nerves ignite with this comfortable light that brings ease. Are there any parts of your body that feel uncomfortable and tense or tight? Breathing into these pockets and then cradling the light at that particular point for a few brief moments, and then exhaling and releasing, feeling that not only the tension and the tightness dissolving, but that body part itself dissolving, relaxing. And now breathing in so that this light reaches all your surfaces, all the surfaces of your body. I'm referring to the skin. And then as you exhale, allowing your form, your skin to dissolve, so that this light now finds its way into the space around you, reaching all of the walls around you, blending into the space, the most minute of corners, under the fridge, behind the furniture, and now spreading underneath the doors and keyholes and window gaps into the other parts of your home, through doors, reaching the streets outside. And light, as we know it, travels at incredible speeds, and so this light, in a matter of seconds, it covers the whole globe, this whole planet. All animate and inanimate objects. Every insect, bird, animal, human being. We release an intention that all these beings experience what we experience at this moment. The same way in which we have reminded ourselves of our inherent ability to experience this. Every living being has this opportunity, and we wish for them to realize it and recognize it. And we release an intention that they do. And this light, it bathes their cells. It fills the hungry stomachs with food. It fills the lonely hearts with company. It fills the sad ones with laughter and smiles. And for just a moment, we believe that this is possible. For no reason other than it just feels good, knowing. I'll ring the final bell now, which we call final only because it symbolizes the close of our hour together. But it's also a bell representing the beginning. The beginning of your practice, where you carry this awareness, this presence, this kindness into the world that surrounds you.